Today we're going to have a look at dynamic steering, on-premise detection and dynamic steering. So first we'll start by going to the Netskope portal and we'll configure a client configuration to enable a DNS check to determine if the client's on site or not. And then we'll modify steering configurations to enable the solution to dynamically steer based on where we are. So let's start out in the settings, security cloud platform, devices, client configuration, and we'll edit this, and we're going to set up this DNS detection on a URL that doesn't matter outside of my on-premise location, so that it doesn't even have to be real. We'll go back to steering configurations and we'll build a new one that's going to allow us to either steer or not steer based on whether we're on site. And as you go through, you see there's a checkbox there for on-premise or off-premise. You'll see for on-premise there's no steered items, but if I'm on off-premise, that all web traffic is steered. I'll highlight this again so you can see if you're on-prem, nothing is steered, and if you're off-prem, there's a lot that's going to be steered. Okay, jumping into a Windows VM, we're going to take a look at our Netskope client here. And what you're going to see is that I'm configured currently to be remote, so I'm not on-premise, and I'm steering all web traffic. And I'm using a steer configuration that's arbitrarily named as on-prem do not steer, and within that steering configuration it has both the on-prem and off-prem steering mechanisms. So let's go to a web browser and check and see what I'm being fed as a certificate, and what we're going to find is that I am traversing the Netskope platform and I am being fed a Netskope certificate that's being generated by my client because I'm remote and therefore my traffic is being steered. Alright, easy peasy. So now we want to take a look at what happens if we switch networks and we go to a location that is, one of my company locations. I can enable this, but first let's see if the test address, which happens to be Netskope client internal, resolves when I'm out and about on a remote network. Spoiler alert, it will not. You see that doesn't resolve because it's not aware of that. But if I enable my network that represents my office network and therefore puts me on premise, what's going to happen is I'll be fed a different DNS, and my test that I entered to determine whether I am on premise or not will resolve. So Netskope client internal is going to resolve to 10.1.1.1 as I set up as my test in the tenant, so you can see that right there. Not pingable because it's not real. So now let's take a look at the steering configuration and we'll see some different results there. So we'll see that it shows that I'm on premise and it shows that I'm steering cloud apps only. I have none defined, so nothing is being steered to Netskope. It's using the same steering configuration, just in the criteria that we're now on premise and therefore not steering. So now I'll go to another website, and what we're going to see here is certificates. That's the original certificate, not the one generated by my tenant, because we are not being steered through Netskope. This is going direct because we're on-prem, so this would traverse your normal firewall or proxy mechanism that you have on site. Thank you.